If you've been on the internet any respectable amount of time, then you'll know about the practically a religion among PC gamers when it comes to mechanical keyboards. So, mechanical keyboards are good, membrane keyboards are bad. You're not a real gamer unless you have a mechanical keyboard. Mechanical keyboards are awesome, mechanical keyboards last longer, mechanical keyboards are more worth it, blah 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 blah. Well, if that's the case, why is it that this mechanical keyboard is the most expensive, shortest lasting keyboard I have ever owned?
The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
This McDonald's toy of a mechanical keyboard that you now see in front of you is my sub-in keyboard, sub $100 cheap piece of junk Rosewill. At least it has brown switches though. It's not a blue switch keyboard that's super clicky or anything. A clacker rather than a clicker. And stuff like that. The reason why I picked it up is because keys have been going out on my main favorite Azio keyboard that I got in 2020. First it was some keys like, for example, the asterisk on the number pad, then it was keys like the N key, and then there were keys like the space bar. So now I've got characters in games that I play with a keyboard and mouse that aren't jumping all the time. At some point you have to draw the line. You know, with membrane keyboards, either it works or it doesn't. I never really ran into situations where one key stopped working unless there was corrosion on the traces or something inside the keyboard. But I think it's more annoying when your keyboard becomes de facto unusable because a certain button either stops working or stops working reliably. However, mechanical keyboards are supposed to be easier to service. So let's go to the project area, let this thing sit here and continue getting broken in, and then check out what we can do about the Azio keyboard, because if I can get that back here, I'd really like to get this rainbow LED whatever out of here. Just red is totally not my color at all. And I can't change the red keys that are on this keyboard. They're locked. It's only the blue keys that can actually have their colors changed. Alright, let's queue up last night's WAN show to listen to while we work on this stuff. Oh yeah, you really think people won't watch streams after the fact on YouTube? Just make them like shows and stuff. So this mechanical keyboard was one that I picked up with stimulus funds during the COVID lockdowns. Less than a few years later, it is an absolute crumb magnet and keys are going out. I've come in here with the cleaning putty before and I've pulled all the switches and cleaned the board underneath, but it is such a magnet for crumbs or whatever. So what I'm going to do, we're going to pull all the switches and find where we unscrew the plate to completely take this thing apart. I want to see how the switches connect to everything. Are they soldered or can I get new switches to replace the ones that are acting up? And how much can I deep clean this thing and how much does that solve? Yuck! Absolutely disgusting. This thing is such a crumb magnet, and the only way to get at this to clean it without using cleaning putty or, blowing it out or putting a vacuum to it is to get the key puller and pull all the keycaps off one at a time. So tedious just to get to this. Yeah, let's see how clean we can get this without continuing to take the keyboard apart.
Epic fail.
Mechanical keyboards. Bah humbug. I've applied the cleaning putty and I've tried to vacuum this thing, and this is how many crumbs are still sticking to this plate. Plus, it's what I dreaded. It is going to be an absolute nightmare to do any switch repairs on this thing because you have to desolder 6 pins per switch. So every switch has the switch, and then there's the LED thing that gives it the RGB lighting. So guess what has what on this hideous keyboard that I'm gonna have to put a toothbrush to clean off. Let's take this button on top. You flip over to the PCB, you have 4 contacts, probably for the LED, 4 contacts, and then 2 for the switch. So it's 6 solder thingies that you have to desolder to replace a switch, and who knows? And of course, hopefully you get it right when you put the LED back in, so you'll still have lighting on that key. This is just ridiculous. And this is why, now that I know more about mechanical keyboards, the enthusiasts these days, it's not just enough for a keyboard to be mechanical, it needs to be hot swappable mechanical. So you can buy new replacement switches and then just push them in with a mechanical connection. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a toothbrush and some alcohol, and I'm going to scrub out the remainder of these crumbs. And I'm going to take the keys that aren't working, spray some contact cleaner, some electrical contact cleaner like Deoxit or something, into the switch, and we'll see if that does anything. But I think the PCB might be gone on some of those, on the buttons that aren't working. Absolutely ridiculous. Now, compare all this trouble, because the switches are basically soldered to the board along with the LEDs. Compare all of this trouble just to clean this thing with your basic insane membrane keyboard, where you can treat all of the other parts, not just the bottom plate, like you're washing dishes, because you can very easily separate the electronics from the stuff you have to clean in order to clean your keyboard. The top part with all the keys, even if you don't pull the keycaps, maybe you don't have keycaps to pull on a membrane keyboard, that can be washed like you're doing the dishes and then air dried. The plastic thing with the trails, if it's not connected, can be washed and scrubbed as well. It's only one little PCB board for the electronics on that, and all the rest can be washed and dried. Versus this. And this is after cleaning putty, after vacuuming. There's that much crap stuck to this board, it's going to have to get scrubbed with a toothbrush. So you spend all that time versus how easy it is to clean an insane membrane keyboard. Gee, is it really worth it to have mechanical switches and call yourself a real gamer or whatever? Magnetic wrist rest, clean. Bottom plate, clean. This, gonna need the toothbrush. That's the difference it makes when things can easily be taken apart and washed like dishes. And I really don't feel like spending a Memorial Day weekend doing something like this.
Epic fail.
Sunday morning, and this is the best I could do with the toothbrush. So yeah, this thing is an absolute crumb magnet, and it always has been. You know what I wish we could do? I wish the switches were actually something I could pull this plate over the top of, so it would just be the circuit board and the switches, and then we can take this thing off and clean it. That's what I would have done with the design on this thing. Well, let me see one of these things here. No, that's pretty sturdy. So, I don't know. If I desoldered the switch, I don't know if I'd be able to pull the switch out without taking those LEDs out first. So, this whole thing might have been made to be thrown out, despite costing over $100. So, well, Azio has moved out of mainstream gaming peripherals since then. So, alright, let's apply power, and let's see if any of this works. If it shorts out the minute I turn everything on, then it was worth a shot, but it'll be probably an incredibly costly mistake here in this lovely decade. Blue lights, baby's got blue lights. I don't need to get affectionate with a friggin' keyboard. Notepad! Look at this. The asterisk on the number pad working all the time again. Thanks, Deoxit. How about the N key? Where is it? That's not it. That's a MMM. There it is. You know what? I'm just going to Deoxit all of the switches. I think there's a lubricant in there as an inactive ingredient, so it'll be the same as lubing the switches too. How long does this stuff take to dry? Holy crap, I don't have to get a new keyboard yet. Look at this, it's actually, how about the space bar? The space bar was screwing up too. We have ourselves a freaking keyboard again. I'm going to Deoxit every single one of these switches, and then I don't know how long it takes for them to dry. But we'll come back to this, because just the asterisk working reliably again is a big step forward. You know what? We can actually start putting this all back together, too. I cleaned off the back plate, so put all those semi-invisible screws back in. Okay, maybe there is some merit to mechanical keyboards after all. Then again, cheapo membrane keyboards are all or nothing. Usually when they break, the whole thing is broken. But my finger's feeling weird from hitting a raw switch that's not a square switch. Alright, we'll hold off on getting another keyboard for now. Alright, final result. It looks a lot cleaner, but I think it would take a cotton swab and some alcohol to clean between all the switches. Again, I really wish the plate could come off the top of the switches and I could just scrub that down and then take the circuit board out and clean out whatever debris was underneath. But hey, that's how this thing was put together. So, let's kill the lights here and switch back to dark mode. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Creak. Look at that. I think it's a keyboard. It's blue, fits the dark mode theme, and the buttons work. Look at that. Let's go to some of the problem buttons. The N button, perfect. Spacebar, perfect. The asterisk on the number pad, which wasn't working earlier. Perfect. So yeah, I mean, mechanical keyboards are a pain. An absolute pain to clean, because they're inherently more complicated than their membrane counterparts. But it is worth doing it! So the real solution to this is to have the ability to not have to worry about being stuck with a spongy membrane keyboard while I'm spending the significant amount of time it takes to pull all the keycaps off, clean everything underneath, and reattach everything. There are few things more tedious than reattaching the keycaps in the right spot on a mechanical keyboard, even when you have an insane membrane keyboard right next door for reference on where everything goes. It's good though. It's good that I get to keep this keyboard because I love the design and I love the build quality. It has a magnetic wrist rest. It has, these are actually pudding keycaps from HyperX that replace the original more Darth Vader-y looking ones. And then we have a nice volume knob, an actual knob, not the slide your finger over it thing. A nice volume knob that you push to mute. It's awesome. This thing's amazing. I would totally love to get years and years and years out of this thing. But I guess that Rosewill piece of junk we bought can solve one of the longest running problems I have with this keyboard. That is being nervous about pulling it in order to work on it or clean it up. Well, I guess we can say that that problem has been solved. In the meantime, I'll keep this Rosewill over here. It does feel cheaper than the other board, which reflects its price. Or maybe it's the keycaps and whatnot that make the other one feel better. Nice little heart when we turn it on. And then it does a rainbow thingy and boots. There are some things that I don't like about this keyboard, though. I really can't get used to buttons going down the side. I keep hitting them by accident when I mean to hit one of these. And especially when you're looking for control, you usually just go to the edge and hit the first button there, and then you find out you're in the wrong spot. So this Rosewill, it's cheap, yeah, but it could never be anything more than a backup for me. But I'll keep it in the project area. Maybe it won't entirely match. And then again, we do have some purple lights over there, so what's the deal with a few red LEDs in my usual all-blue environment? Also, it has Otimo brown switches, or however you say the name, but these do feel a little lighter than the other ones. Maybe because I don't have pudding keycaps on these, and these are the original keycaps. I don't see any real need to buy special keycaps for a backup keyboard, though. The main purpose and what this is going to allow for is the next time I think the other keyboard's getting a little dirty, I'll swap this one in, bring that one over here before it gets as nasty as it was this time around, and clean it up. Instead of putting up with keys slowly going out from debris and just needing to be cleaned overall. I will say though, mechanical keyboards require some different types of maintenance than their insane membrane counterparts. And I am curious about whether or not membrane keyboards can ever be half decent compared to the more solid feel of mechanical switches. But for now, that's our latest chapter in the whole keyboard thing that I keep coming back to every several months. Not going to be too big of a keyboard nut or buy keyboards I don't really need, unless I want to revive something similar to back when I used to have a Microsoft Natural keyboard or keyboards that I used for special situations. I have been curious about a loud blue switch typewriter style keyboard, but I don't know if there are very many cheap ones available that would give me the kind of typewriter feel that I'm thinking about springing for. But either way, we have ourselves mechanical options at both parts of the Geek House now, as the motorcycles roar around outside because it's a beautiful Memorial Day weekend, and I'm indoors messing around with computers, of course. What do you expect from a nerd? But we basically have a backup mechanical option, so I don't sit there like, do I really have to unplug the keyboard and go to a mushy membrane? It's going to take a while to fix the thing. How long can we let this go? And then wonder if we have to get rid of the keyboard because we let keys go completely out and we're putting up with it or whatever because we don't want to swap it out. That ends here, and that will be the primary purpose of this cheapo Rosewill. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay signing off. Thanks for stopping by.